Hi there. Today we will talk about emotional eating. My goal is to arm you with several tools that you can use that can help you combat emotional eating and even make it obsolete. Occasionally using food as a pick me up or as a reward or to celebrate is not necessarily a bad thing. But when eating is your primary coping mechanism, you are an emotional eater. You can get stuck in this unhealthy vicious cycle with food where your real emotional problem is never really addressed. Unfortunately, emotional eating does not fix a problem. In fact, emotional eating makes you feel worse. Afterward, not only does the original emotional issue remain, but then you have some additional negative feelings that can cause even more emotional problems. Does that make sense? We'll talk about that very soon. Hi there, my name is Dr. Inaka Yembe. I'm a board certified family medicine physician who is extremely passionate about helping people with weight loss. I developed a 6-step system called the Evolve Method. It helped me lose 86 pounds in a 2-year span, and so far I have succeeded in keeping it off and losing even more weight. It has helped my coaching clients as well. Anyway, back to the topic. You want to ask yourself some serious questions. I always do an intake when I start working with someone for the first time. The question of emotional eating is on that form. And I ask people, are you an emotional eater? Half of the people say no, but when I explain it to them, they go ahead and admit the fact that they are an emotional eater. So you need to ask yourself some very serious questions. Do you eat when you feel stressed? Do you eat when you're not hungry? Do you eat to make yourself feel better, to soothe your nerves, to help you when you're angry or when you're anxious or when you're tired? Do you reward yourself with food? Do you eat until you're really stuffed and you keep eating and you don't know why? Does food make you safe? Or do you feel like you have no control when you're around a lot of food? To help you, let's talk about the emotional eating cycle. You experience stress, you're looking for comfort, so you eat something. Whatever you eat makes you feel good just for the moment. But the feelings that triggered the eating are still there. Or you start to feel even worse than you did before you ate all those unnecessary things. You beat yourself up because you've just consumed too much of the wrong thing, and so you start to feel bad. Those positive feelings that you got from eating emotionally are gone. They evaporate. You feel guilty, you feel angry, stress comes back, and then you reach for food again. And the cycle repeats itself over and over. Compounding to that problem, you stop learning healthier ways to deal with your emotion. You have a harder time controlling your weight, and then you feel even more powerless, both not only over food, but over your feelings as well. Listen, all is not lost. I am here to tell you, no matter how powerless you feel around food, it's possible to make a positive change. The very first thing to do is understand the difference between emotional hunger and real hunger. Emotional hunger comes on suddenly. Out of nowhere, you are hungry when you weren't even hungry before. Physical hunger comes on really slowly. It comes on gradually. You start to feel hungry, then you feel more hungry. Sometimes you wait it out and the hunger goes away. Emotional hunger feels like an emergency. I've got to eat something right this minute. Physical hunger, on the other hand, it can wait. You can tell yourself, well, I'm not ready to eat right now. I'm busy. I'm going to finish what I'm doing before I find something to eat. And you are okay with that. On the other hand, emotional hunger feels like, I gotta eat right now. Not only that, you're hungry just for certain foods. Meanwhile, with physical hunger, you can eat whatever is available to you. You're not really craving just one thing. With emotional hunger, sometimes you eat and eat and eat. You feel full. It almost seems like you're powerless. You keep eating even if you're full. With physical hunger, you eat and generally you stop eating when you're full. With emotional hunger, after you're done eating, then comes the negative feelings of guilt, shame, anger, disgust. Meanwhile, with physical hunger, you eat, you're satisfied, you're happy about it, you don't have any negative feelings attached to eating when you're hungry, when it's just physical hunger. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about to really clarify things is to tell you how your brain works, because it's easier to overcome something when you fully understand what happens. Now, there are some parts of the brain that are rewarded when you eat fat food, or when you eat what we call comfort foods, or when you eat sugary foods. Our brain reward system is actually our survival system. The brain reward system rewards foods because foods are the things that help us survive. But when that brain reward center is activated, there is a hormone that's released called dopamine. Dopamine creates a pleasing sensation, an enjoyable sensation, and so we are likely to repeat the behaviors that are necessary for survival. Because dopamine rewarded us with a pleasurable feeling, we tend to develop a habit. We want to repeat that behavior that gave us that pleasurable feeling. Furthermore, that pleasurable feeling, that feeling of reward, is tied to our emotions. And that's why every time that we attach our emotions to something, it can become a habit. Now, another thing that can really help you understand how things work is that your whole behavior is also attached to certain situations. And let me give you an example for that. Let's say you sit in front of the TV and you always automatically grab the popcorn with butter and watch TV and eat unconsciously, but it makes you feel good. You tend to repeat that behavior every time you sit in that spot because your emotions are attached to it. Now, drug addiction is also tied to this same kind of pleasurable feeling. But then something happens, and this is why when you are eating because of your emotions, you can even eat more than you mean to, because there is a specific behavior that when repeated over and over and over, the amount of dopamine that's released is not as much. So what happens, the pleasurable feeling is somewhat dampened. That phenomenon is called habituation. And that's the reason why when you have eaten something that makes you feel good, you keep repeating this after months and months and months, you can easily eat more than you did at this point compared to what you were doing several months ago. It happens with drug addicts also. They use a drug, they feel better. 10 months down the line, they use the same drug. It doesn't really give that intense feeling, so they reach out for more. Food and comfort food and emotional eating is also an addiction. Now, I've given you some insight into how this emotional eating cycle goes about. So the next thing that we want to do to combat emotional eating is to analyze eating patterns. It's very important that we talk about eating patterns, because in order to completely break down and eliminate this dysfunctional way of eating, you really have to understand what your habit is and then get a new habit and paste it over the bad one. And with time, that bad habit hopefully goes away. So to start, I want you to spend some time observing yourself. What happens to you when you have this habit or this period of emotional eating? What is it that kicked off that process? That's the first thing. Think about your triggers. I know my trigger, and it really usually happens in the evening or when I'm working in the emergency room. My trigger for emotional eating is fatigue. When I'm tired, I feel like I need to grab something just to give me energy to keep going or to clear my head if I'm working. That's my trigger. These triggers must be recognized. If you don't recognize your emotional trigger, it's going to be difficult for you to get out of that autopilot state that throws you into binge eating or emotional eating. Once you recognize that autopilot, what triggers that autopilot, you can turn it off. But it starts by paying attention to your triggers. Now, once you've paid attention to your triggers, now I really want you to observe yourself and find your trigger. I've given you some. For example, for me, it's fatigue. For you, it may be stress. For someone else, it may be anger. For somebody else, it may be just that familiar spot, that rocking chair in which you sit, or that couch, or that familiar spot where you sit and you feel like grabbing some junk food to watch TV. What's your trigger? That's your homework and assignment that I want you to work on seriously if you are interested in combating emotional eating and eliminating it for good. You must know your trigger. After you figured out your trigger, now the burning question is, what can I do? Of course. Let me give you some strategies. Number one, substitution. Big deal. For me, for example, I used to get home, I'm so tired, I'll go to sleep, and then I'll wake up in my sleep for some reason. I find myself in front of the refrigerator. Hey, don't you judge me. This happens to a lot of people that I know, so I know I'm not the only one. But anyway, you wake up, you go to the refrigerator. I used to open it up, there are the grapes. I will actually eat a good 1 or 2 or 3 handfuls of grapes in my sleep for whatever reason. And then I go back to sleep. I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking, oh no, I should not have done that. Really? So in order to completely eliminate that habit, what I did was I removed the grapes. In fact, I stopped purchasing grapes. I haven't purchased grapes for about 2 years now, or even longer. Not only that, I replaced grapes with celery sticks. Now I don't even like celery sticks. And what happened? In the beginning, I still woke up at night, went to the refrigerator, grabbed the celery stick, took 1 or 2 bites. No, I was done. Throw it away, went back to sleep. And then at a certain point, I'll wake up again, grab the celery stick, 1, 2 bites. Nope, throw it away. Right now, I don't wake up from sleep anymore. That habit is gone, squashed, goodbye, for good. I don't wake up at night because I think my brain somehow knows if I go to the refrigerator, there is nothing that will give me pleasure, nothing that I can eat that will really stimulate my taste buds like grapes used to. So I have substituted my go-to emotional food for something that I don't really like, and even if I eat it, it's got very few calories. Strategy number 2, relaxation. Most people have this emotional eating when they are stressed, when they're anxious, then they tend to reach out for comfort foods. So I always advise my coaching clients to get some relaxation, whether it's having a hot shower or sitting in the bathtub, or just relax with some music. You know, you get out of work, you face traffic, you're in a hurry to go get the child from daycare. I mean, there's just so much happening. Why don't you pop up some calming music or listen to a podcast or something that can calm you down? But you have to intentionally try to relax because it will help you with emotional eating. Number 3, Learn mindful eating. Meditation-based eating or training is really widely available. I mean, you can look this up anywhere. But when we eat emotionally, we tend to just wolf down our food without thinking, without even paying attention to the taste, texture, nothing. But when you eat mindfully, you tend to slow things down. You think about your food, you feel the texture, the taste, you look at the color. Then number one, you don't eat as much, especially if you attach feelings to your food. Feel grateful for what you're eating, taste everything. It really will, number one, help you slow down, and it helps to eliminate binge eating. Next, number 4, of course you guessed this. I couldn't finish without talking about exercise. Yes, anytime that you're stressed, anytime that you feel like eating without thinking, anytime that you feel like binge eating, if you just step back for just a second, go for a walk or a jog or go swimming, just whatever pleases you, or even do some yoga or tai chi, whatever. Number one, it takes you away from the food. Number two, it takes your mind off into a healthy activity. So then you already figured out, I probably don't need to eat this. Exercise helps combat emotional eating. Next, just mentally shift your attention. Distraction helps. Now, if I'm sitting here thinking about eating grapes or about eating something that's unhealthy, I can intentionally remove my mind. One of the ways that I do that is attach something disgusting to the thing that I'm really craving. For example, if you crave chocolate or if you crave pudding or whatever it is, your go-to food, just attach something that's disgusting, like maggots. I mean, I think about chocolate, I think about maggots coming out from all over. Oh, I'm done, it's okay. So just shift your attention, or you can replace it with something that's really disgusting. Next, learn to take 5. Just take 5. Can you put off eating for 5 minutes? I mean, if you really sit here and you feel like, I've got to eat now, start by separating yourself and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to wait 5 minutes. Sometimes 5 minutes seems too long. Fine. Start with just 1 minute. Can I put off eating for just 1 minute? If it's really, really, really tempting after 1 minute and I'm still thinking about it, okay, let me try this for 1 more minute. While you're doing that, check in with your own self. Hey, how am I feeling? Am I stressed? Am I upset? Am I just anxious? Is that the reason why I'm eating? Should I really eat? Start thinking, and the best thing to do at this point is write it down. Start writing down your feelings. It would help put you in a different activity and distract you from thoughts of eating, and then you also start to address the emotions that you feel that tip you over into emotional eating or binge eating. Lastly, let's talk about sleep. When you don't get enough sleep, studies now show that you crave sugary foods. Why? Because getting plenty of sleep helps the production and the balance of the hunger and the satiety hormone called leptin and ghrelin. If you don't sleep enough, this hormonal balance is thrown off. So there's just nothing. The hormone that tells you your body you're hungry is turned on a lot more. The one that tells you you're full, it's kind of dampened. So you can even eat more if you don't sleep enough. Lastly, let's talk about connections. Don't underestimate the power of close, positive relations. Spending time with positive people, spending time with like-minded people, especially those who are moving in the same direction as you, trying to get healthy and stay healthy. Do not underestimate the importance of staying in contact with these people. Because, for example, imagine what will happen if you feel like binging on something right now and you say, hey, wait a minute, let me log into Facebook and go onto the Evolve Facebook page and see what everybody's doing. It will help you. So group power is really important in keeping you motivated and in losing some of the bad habits that you may have. The very last advice I have for you is keeping a food journal. When you keep a food journal, meaning you write down every single thing that you eat, or you have an app where you can store it, for example, in the MyFitnessPal, you can log in all your food or you can write it down. It actually helps bring to your awareness the things that you're eating. Now, if you had some junk food on there, you go back and you're thinking, oh, goodness, well, I probably shouldn't do that. Now, if you feel like binge eating, you probably will not, because you are writing this down and it is writing into your mind and bringing to your awareness the fact that you are on a healthy lifestyle change now. So I hope all these strategies that I have given to you, you can pick some and apply to yourself immediately to help you combat emotional eating, because emotional eating is really one of those things that can consistently sabotage our weight loss efforts. I hope this video helps you as much as it helped me and several of my coaching clients. If you need more information, go to my website, book a strategy session. It's free and I can talk to you for 30 minutes and give you several more tips and strategies that you can apply. You can also become an Evolve Nation member. The Evolve MD Nation actually is on my website, drinakayembe.com. Go ahead and subscribe.